Welcome everyone to episode 11 of HODL. Today we're going to discuss the future acquisition and in more detail together with Richard Byworth. Hey Richard, how are you?
I'm great, Sander. Good to see you.
Good to see you. So H100 acquired Future Holdings a few weeks back, and that marked our strategic initiative to enter Switzerland. And one of the benefits we saw from that transaction was bringing in a very solid team that we have shared over the last few weeks. One of them is obviously you, but also Marxis and Don Ever. So I thought maybe it was good to start this episode by asking you, for those that doesn't know you, who are you and how did you enter this industry?
Sure, yeah. So I started my career as an investment banker on the market side. So as a trader, and then I ran distribution for Nomura out of Tokyo, and then eventually what became Lehman plus Nomura. I was running convertible bond business for us out there, and we quickly became the number one player in Asian convertible bonds. So by the time the Lehman acquisition happened, I ended up inheriting a lot of the businesses that were related to convertible bonds. So equity derivatives, Delta One, futures and options. The nice thing about a convertible bond is that it is a really broad product, and it brings in, knowledge base from a variety of different equity related products and credit related products. So what you often see in, if you look across investment banks today, many of the leadership in investment banks have previous experience within convertible bonds because it is such a rounded product. And trying to piece the understanding together of convertible bonds from just understanding interest rate derivatives or credit rate derivatives is sometimes not that straightforward when someone's grown up in one of those other pockets. So yeah, it's a very good base for me to cut my teeth in capital markets, but also structuring around products. So I led the structuring and distribution of some of the largest deals in Asia between sort of 2005 to 2017. So quite a long time. I discovered Bitcoin properly in early 2017, and I didn't really understand it until late 2018. Back then, there really wasn't the same level of content that's available today. I mean, you got like the Sailor series on the What is Money podcast that just goes so deep. Today, you just didn't really have material like that. And I remember I listened to one podcast in the evening of a Friday in October of 2018. And that was really the moment where I was like, I just don't have enough of this asset. And that was really my sort of turning point. And at that time, I was already running a digital asset company. So broad crypto, we were a exchange trading platform, asset manager, custodian, and sort of at that moment became a Bitcoin maxi. And it was funny because I sort of was the final veto on anything that would get listed on the exchange. And so I remember when the team tried to come to me to list XRP, I was like, no, absolutely not. And we have to delist pretty much everything and just focus on Bitcoin and Bitcoin derivatives. So yeah, that was an interesting moment in my life, running a crypto firm as a Bitcoiner. But yeah, that really, I left that firm at the end of 2021. And in 22, I joined Seize Capital, which is an alternative asset manager here in Switzerland, and built one of the largest fund of crypto hedge funds in the world, which was Bitcoin denominated. So we'll be looking at various different aspects of yield for H100 within the Bitcoin space, as well as obviously helping you with the structuring in the capital markets. But yeah, very excited.
Yeah, and given your capital markets background, where do you think the biggest opportunities in Bitcoin treasury companies are, because you have also not only been a Bitcoiner for quite some time, but you have been quite bullish on this industry for as one of the earliest professional players.
Yeah, I think, you know, I mean, Saylor will admit that he's sort of been feeling around in the dark, trying to work out which product to launch. And I think he really has hit the nail on the head very squarely with STRC. And I think he's, you know, I mean, I dealt with preference shares back in Tokyo, and they were always with really toxic companies. And so preference shares tended to have extreme volatility to them in Japan. And so when he went down that route, I thought it was interesting, but it became very clear very quickly that it was absolutely the perfect product for a company like this, where, you know, normally if you're looking, for example, on a convertible bond, a fiat denominated convertible bond, the normal tenor there is 5 years, or, you know, you'd even have a put after 3 years or 2. And so, you know, the tenor or the duration of that capital is much shorter. What he's done with these perpetual preferred, he said, okay, I can pay it back in 10 years time. So 10 years time, if I have 10% coupons, I've essentially paid all the notional, but I still don't actually really have to pay it back. So he's sort of massively increased the duration that he can hold the capital that he's using to buy Bitcoin. And so obviously, you know, we all know that Bitcoin's track record over 5 years is pretty impressive. If you can hold Bitcoin for 5 years, you're pretty much guaranteed to be making profit. He's now extended that to 10 years. So I would say 99.9% probability that he's going to be in profit after 10 years. And that's really what he's done, which is really very ingenious use of these perpetual preferred equity shares. I think there's 2 other products that are underutilized by Bitcoin treasury companies, which obviously I think, you know, as we sort of execute our roadmap plan, we will be looking at utilizing more heavily. And one is Bitcoin denominated convertible bonds. I think that is massively underutilized, and certainly in a bull market, you will quickly accrete much more Bitcoin for your investors. And even in a bear market, you can sell shares implicitly at a premium, with the credit risk being that you have to give the Bitcoin back. So these products are absolutely, again, fit for purpose for a Bitcoin treasury company. And the final one I'd say is, and this is critical to have liquidity in your stock. And that's why what we're going to do with H100 in Switzerland is so interesting, because obviously Switzerland is such a liquid stock market on SIX, is to have a viable ATM. So at the market execution of sale of stock as we sort of hit certain milestones. The reason that you need that is to execute this other product, which to this point in time, it's only Metaplanet that have done it, and that is put underwriting. So selling puts on Bitcoin at the same time as raising capital through the ATM. So you're essentially locking in the price that you're buying the Bitcoin. So if you're doing an at the money strike in the put, but you get paid to buy that Bitcoin. So you've got the cash coming in to finance the put buying. So you go, okay, like, let's say it's, what are we, $70,000 today. So we sell a $70,000 put, you know, for 2 weeks, we might get paid, depending on the volatility, anything between 0.5% and 3, 4, 5%. And, you know, then you essentially say, well, that means I've just bought Bitcoin at 70,000. So you're raising capital through the ATM to be buying that Bitcoin. If it doesn't execute because it closes at 71,000, you take the 5 or 1 or 5%, whatever it is, and you have the cash to just go into the market and buy the Bitcoin anyway. So you're creating additional income stream based on the various different capital markets products that you have. So yeah, I think I'm super excited about what we can do within the capital market space once we get to Switzerland with H100.
I mean, we are obviously very excited to bring you and the rest of the team on board. And we believe one of the main benefits of the new team is that we have everything from our history of execution, power, and staying lean and fast in the market. And we combine that with your institutional and traditional finance knowledge. But I think it would be good for the audience to understand why you and the rest of the team were excited to join us.
Yeah, look, you and I have spent a lot of time together. I was an early investor in H100 anyway, and so the reason for that was that I'd been immediately very impressed by yourself. I obviously had you on the podcast, the Seize the Future podcast, and we, there were a couple of moments during that podcast where I really again had my eyes open to just your very focused execution mindset. And I've seen it in the last couple of weeks as working together, your just ability to see a deal, understand a deal very quickly. You're a young guy, but you have a very quick understanding of the mechanics of potentially quite complex stuff within the capital markets. I mean, you and I talk about this stuff all the time. You understand it very, very clearly. So I would say that pulling together, Johannes's ability to, really execute very fast on the legal side, get documentation done, which means that we can execute deals very, very fast. Your ability to just be a dynamic negotiator who understands things quickly and sees opportunities quickly, combined with the ability that you bring in with myself, Donald, and Mark, I think is just an extremely powerful combination. And I would say also that, for us logically, I was, considering who would be the right fit for Future. And, given we were focused on Europe and we wanted to be in Switzerland, the fact that you guys were in Switzerland, understand Switzerland, again, is very important, because I think you, more than most, immediately understood the opportunity with Switzerland.
And when we are talking about Switzerland, what's the opportunity in Switzerland from your perspective?
It's twofold. So one, of course, I think Saylor's spoken about this a few times, but the fact that the interest rates are so low. So we're back at base rates of 0% in Switzerland. So in some banks already, you're having to pay to keep balances in Swiss francs in your bank account. Which means that strong execution of pref or fixed income type products within Switzerland could achieve very low coupons, but be very compelling for the general population. So I think that is super important, and I would say it's the main thing about Switzerland that is so compelling. Since we've sort of been working together, I've spoken to a few investors here in Switzerland about the idea of doing something in the fixed income space, and I can tell you the appetite is absolutely enormous. The best that people are able to achieve, taking quite significant risk, is 3-4%. So we could go out with 5, 6, 7, even 8%. We're undercutting the majority of our competitors, and people will rip our arms off, to use a trading term. So I think that's obviously the main thing. But the other thing is, as I sort of alluded to before, having a very liquid stock market. So within Europe, there are, LSE is one of the reasons that Smarter Web is focused on getting to LSE, or has managed to do so now, is because of the liquidity that a stock market like that provides. And it's very hard to get some of the larger institutional investors involved if you do not have the potential for liquidity on the stock. So it is extremely important that we get to a liquid venue, but that liquid venue then opens up the possibility of, as I said before, an ATM program that then can be used in conjunction with a put underwriting program to create an income stream on the business.
Yeah, and I also think it's worth mentioning that I think Switzerland is the country in the world with the most banks accepting and have Bitcoin related products. We have a pretty clear regulatory framework and a flexible financial industry. I will argue one of the best in the world, especially in different private banking services. And so for me, it's also like an infrastructure play. And here the playground is open. The regulatory environment is relatively friendly. And on top of that, with all the structural opportunities with the low interest rates and liquid stock market makes this very, very interesting. So I'm super excited about both the future acquisition, but also entering the Swiss market.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, I mean, we raised money for Future to buy Bitcoin in a very difficult environment. And we did it at a solid MNAV premium, where other companies had been launching at a 1 times MNAV or a 1.1 times MNAV. We were able to raise capital very easily at a 1.3 times MNAV. In fact, it was probably the easiest capital raise I've ever done for anything in my life. We did it in a matter of days, and yeah, we had, you know, over demand. We said we're going to cap it at 28 million because we wanted to keep the capital small, because we felt that there was the advantage to being small and having some torque to the market capitalization. Yeah, I think there's huge support for this as a business focused on Switzerland. And so again, very excited to be able to go to investors and say, you know, now H100 has that Swiss listing. So for me, that's a really critical piece that we're going to be focused on for the next foreseeable future.
For sure. And one of the things I have learned in my career is the importance of the people you're working with, and that's also why I'm so excited about the acquisition of Future. And of course, you have your experience, but we're also bringing on board Donald and Mark. Could you maybe share your thoughts on what additional value the other new team members will bring to the company, and why you feel that is a good fit for H100?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look at the 3 people you've brought on, with myself, you've brought on capital market structuring expertise in sort of multitude of derivative type products. With Mark, so Mark is a private equity veteran of the last 15 years. He's been running in various different roles, the last one being with me at Seize Capital, where we both recently left, the deal by deal private equity business, where he was buying small and mid cap companies across German speaking Europe. And I think, you know, as we expand the business, obviously first and foremost through capital market strategies, the later stage strategy of what we're going to be doing is building cash flow business. We need cash flow business to be able to be continuously accreting more Bitcoin through bear markets. And so having someone with Mark's sort of track record on board, being able to identify, you know, interesting companies that are, you know, potentially quite boring, but just providing very solid cash flows to the business, which means that we can just keep accreting Bitcoin throughout, you know, any crypto winter that might come, is very, very important. So I see that Mark's role being sort of slightly later down the execution roadmap, but certainly this year, I think he's going to start getting very active for us in terms of looking for those pockets of cash flow. Then Donald, I mean, Donald I brought onto Future because I'm not a credit guy. I'm a predominantly an equity guy. So the focus of where I lent with the business investment banking was always through equity derivatives. But Donald was one of my earliest clients, and he came from the fixed income side. So he would look at convertible bonds through the credit lens. And at the time we first started speaking was probably 20 years ago. He was at Caxton, which is a very large macro hedge fund, running their credit and convertible bond strategies. Later, he went on to run Citadel Asia's fixed income business, working directly for Ken Griffin. So there isn't really, I mean, you can't really find someone with a better pedigree in the credit space for hedge funds than Donald. He's extremely smart. Often when I was struggling to understand a credit of a company, I'd pick up the phone to Donald and get his view on it, because he really is very detailed, but also very thoughtful around different aspects and looking at things differently. And what was quite funny was we'd just had a conversation, and he was saying, "Oh, I've been paying attention to what MicroStrategy is doing with these pref shares." And when I realized that he wasn't very close to Bitcoin, like a lot of hedge fund managers still tend to be today, we started talking about the idea of him potentially coming and helping me as an advisor to Future. He absolutely jumped on the opportunity, ended up investing in Future, and so when we started discussing the idea of moving over to H100, for me it was really essential that we bring Donald, because if we think about where the strategy is going to go with the capital market strategy, it is going to be leaning into eventually very heavily a replication of or improvement upon what Saylor has done or something. Obviously, we have to make it specific to Switzerland, and there are nuances to the Swiss market that are going to be more efficient than things that Saylor has done, and likewise different tax considerations and things like that. So having someone like Donald who sort of really has that broad understanding of the credit markets and what can be done, I think is just invaluable.
Yeah, I 100% agree. To wrap this up, we will end with a little bit different question. We listed in April last year with the operational business we have, which is a digital exercise and nutrition coaching platform, which I founded back in 2015. Both Johannes and I has a competitive swimming background. We spent most of our childhood in a swimming pool, swimming back and forth. So to end this, I would like to know more about what's your relationship to sport, and do you have any health tricks or regimes that you are willing to share with us?
Yeah, well, when you were swimming back and forth in the pool with Johannes, I was rowing back and forth on a river. So I was also very focused on my sport as a young man, and rowing was my sport. So I still today I'll hit the gym and hit the ergo, and it is the most brutal workout that you can possibly find. But yeah, I like to still do weights today. I do a lot of walking. One of the things, and I did it just before this discussion, I swim in the lake during the winter, which is something that I absolutely adore. I think I did some time with Wim Hof in Poland a couple of years back in the mountains, and I've never been the same since. It's really, I find it, if I don't swim in the lake one week, I really notice it. It gives me energy. And certainly through the winter when it's sort of clouded and raining, one of the ways to get UV into your cells is through deep cold exposure. So it's a very healthy thing to be doing. But I also am very focused on my diet. So I had a bit of a heavy Christmas, so I've cut all bread and sugar and alcohol for the next few months to get myself back in shape for the summer. But yeah, diet is very important to me, eating clean.
Fantastic. I also remember you told me last year that you basically cut all alcohol for, the goal was a year. Did you make it?
I did it. Yeah, 2025. Yeah, I stopped drinking alcohol completely. I had a glass on New Year's Eve and a couple of glasses in early January. But honestly, not drinking alcohol has been a game changer. It just you're just so much more switched on. I think yeah, it just allows you to keep continuity much more than the break that alcohol gives you from sort of very clear thinking. Yeah. What about you? You drink
Seems to,
alcohol? I'm not sure.
I drink. I would say wine is something I enjoy, but it's definitely over the last 2 years been drastically reduced. I think to win in this certain environment, when you now have prices 24/7, you do business globally, it's very hard to even have a proper weekends. I mean, having this right harmony between work and fun, and combining that with being as healthy as you can. I mean, entrepreneurship is per definition unhealthy. I mean, you have to push things forward in an extreme way. So for me, having the right balance is super important, and I think we will definitely see a future with more Bitcoin, but also more health focused people, because that's what's required. I think business today looks more like you need to live more like an athlete. You need to dedicate your life to it. It's not really something, in my opinion, anymore that calls work-life balance. If you want to win, especially in this very digital, very global industries like we are in.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. You have to approach your work like an athlete. That's absolutely it. So very well said. Should be the title of the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Richard. Thank you so much for your time today, and I'm very excited working with you and building H100 and future together.
Me too, Sander. Thanks very much. See you soon.
See you soon.